Hey guys, Gary here from RV Living Life. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're in one of our favorite campgrounds in Northern Ontario, and as you can see, this is a beautiful lake behind us here. I'm right at the picnic table on our site. It's just beautiful. Anyway, if you're already a subscriber, please give us a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Anything you do to help us out is greatly appreciated. So today I'm starting a new series, and I believe it's going to be on different things then and now. So I'm going to talk about things I did to the RV quite a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and how it is today. And I'm going to start out with my Victron inverter system, solar panels, and the inverters, and also my Renogy batteries. And I'm going to give you a little tour of how the system looks. It pretty much has not changed a lot since the beginning, but I have had a few issues over the years, and I'm going to point out what they were and how I could have improved on that when I first built it. And if you build a system like this, maybe it'll help you. One of the things I would definitely like to say is the equipment is top-notch. I originally bought Renogy Batteries, 8 of them, because I was looking at the Battleborn, which everybody loves. And back then in Canadian, they were about $1,000 a battery. And I managed getting Renogy ones for about $300 a battery. So that was quite the savings. Renogy had just come to Canada. I ended up buying them on a sale, converted from US dollars to Canadian. They gave me a straight exchange on it. Really got a good deal on them. I have no regrets with the Renogy batteries. One thing I got to say is they're pretty rock solid. They've been charged and discharged I don't know how many times over the last 4 years or so, and they work great. No issues at all. I did a test on them recently, and when I first got them, I individually tested them, and they all had about 105 amp hours each. For 8, that's 840 amp hours, and I recently just did a test, and they're down to 798 amp hours. So after 4 or 5 years of use, I'd say there's really no difference in how good they are. So in paying like less than a third of what I would have paid by buying the Battleborn ones, I think I'm better off. At the time I thought, I could replace these 3 times if I had to, just in case, I have issues, but it would be comparable to paying the full price for the Battleborn. But anyway, at about $2,400, it was a hell of a deal. Another thing about the inverters, I bought 2 inverters, Victron 3000 inverters. They were, relatively easy to get in Canada at the time when I was doing this battery changeover upgrade from my original system in my RV. Originally, I just had 4 sealed lead acid batteries, golf cart batteries, and they were a joke. And, the system I created from that really worked well. But what I'd like to say about the Victron is I had 2 3,000 watt inverters, and they work fairly well, and I can do split phase and parallel with them quite easily. And I did add one thing down the road, maybe a year down the road of getting it, is I added a switch where I could switch the wiring from true split phase wiring to true parallel wiring. And the biggest advantage of that is you can leave it in true parallel wiring, and you can just plug into 30 amp or 50 amp whenever you want. It really makes no change on how the system operates. And then if you do want split phase, then you can flip the switch, go to and reconfigure the inverters to split phase, which is just a matter of just running a config file. And then you can go to split phase. And the reason I wanted to do it this way is because back in the day when I was going from park to park and I didn't know if I would get a 30 or a 50 amp spot, sometimes I would get to a place and I'd have to switch from 50 to 30 or vice versa, and I had no internet. So that was a real issue. I used to have to take the laptop out and reconfigure the inverters right from scratch every time I had that change and there was no internet. So I decided I would just set that up so that I could just travel in parallel. Whatever I get to, it would work fine. And it does work fine. And I generally run it in split phase when I'm on a 50 amp park, because I'm generally staying there 3 weeks at a time or whatever, and you want to have all the power you can. But running 2 inverters, it does have issues, and I'll get into that a little later on in the video. But another reason I want to still be able to do split phase is because I have a 10 kilowatt generator, and it recommends being connected to split phase. Now, I don't know if it would work in parallel. Maybe it did, maybe it would, maybe not. I suspect it would. I know that some inverters, some generators, I should say, when they're trying to charge a system and it's connected to parallel, if it doesn't see the L2, L1 and L2 lines, if it doesn't see the second line having any power, it won't run, it won't charge. Other times, the way the system is wound, I guess, it could cause issues with one set of wires getting hot and the other not. And some generators, I guess, they have the L1 and L2 lines wrapped around together in the coil, and somehow one warming up the other seems to make it work. But I didn't want to have that issue, so I can easily flick it over to split phase if I want to run the generator. But these days, to be honest, we hardly run the generator at all. We just run it when, once a month for an hour or two, just to, keep it maintained. But for the most part, we don't need it. We have solar, and we generally travel from, pedestal to pedestal, park to park. We do some boondocking, but the boondocking we do is generally when we're just traveling from Canada down to the US or back. Any other traveling, that's long-term, long drive traveling. Any other time where we're traveling, we only travel a few hours a day, 2 to 4 hours a day. And we can just run one AC on the roof on our batteries with no issue. We have a little bit of solar coming in, and that allows us to get some power coming back while we're using it. Also, we have a solar charger from Victron. No issues with that, works great. Definitely see the power coming off the roof into the system all the time, and it's pretty much carefree. The only thing that is not carefree is the actual Victron inverters, and it's because we're running 2 of them. And again, I'll get into that a little further on. But I'm just going to give you a quick tour of how the system looks and operates, and then I'll get back into issues we've had down the road. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so here's the battery bay. As you can see, I have 2 inverters. Right now they're running at 30 amp parallel, and one of them is inverting and charging, and the other one's only charging. And with this switch over here, I can leave the system in parallel, and I can run it on 50 amp or 30 amp in parallel. Or I can flick that switch, and I can go into the software and change the inverters to split phase, and I can run on that. So when I want to run my generator, or if I'm going to be in a 50 amp park for a while, I do like to run it on split phase. Down here we have the 8 Renogy batteries. This is for my lights underneath, underglow lighting. Anyway, we have 8 Renogy batteries. As I mentioned, when I bought these, I paid about 1/3 of what I would have paid for Battleborn, and they've been spectacular. Originally load tested them. They got 840 amps out of them in total, and recently I did another load test and I get 798. So after about 5 years, they've really not lost much power. So they're excellent batteries, and again, 1/3 of the price of Battleborn. I can replace these 3 times for the price of 8 Battleborns. Up here we have my solar charger. It's a 150/70. I got 2 panels coming off the roof. They each come to separate connectors here. These are Morse connectors. I really like those. Much safer than just using Moretz and what have you. Each line coming in from the roof has its own circuit breaker, and then back there's a yellow circuit breaker for all of the solar system there. And up here we have the Servo GX. I don't know if it shows on the camera, but it's there. This is a 600 amp power on-off switch. It's not permanently mounted right now because I'm doing some changes with the wiring for my underglow lights. And normally that would be all buttoned up nicely. Back there we have a black power bus bar for all the negatives, and up here we have red bus bars for all of the positive. I think that's pretty much everything in here. And yeah, so anyway, we'll carry on from there. Okay, so one of the issues I've had over the years is with bus bars. My original bus bars I used were not heavy duty enough. I used what was recommended. I believe it was a 200 amp recommendation. But what happens with these is when things are getting hot, the cabling in the coach is good for 400 amps. So why would you put a 200 amp bus bar? I didn't know about that back then, but I know better now. But what would happen with these is this would get hot. There's a couple of bolts missing on here. There should be 4 bolts. And the bolts on the ends, the reason they're not in here is I removed them, but they go through the back of the plastic. They go through a hole in the back of the plastic and then come out of the top. And then you would put your battery cable or whatever cable you had on there and tighten it down. But what happens is over time, when these get hot, the plastic gets hot. And the torque that you have on here makes it shrink, makes the plastic shrink. And this ends up creating a loose connection, which is really not noticeable in any way whatsoever. But when you remove these and you start to play around with it, you can see that, you know, everything's just spinning. So this is not the greatest design for a bus bar, and it's highly underrated for what should be. So these are 200, I believe, amp. I replaced them with 600 amp bus bars. And this metal piece here is much thicker, so it would not get as hot. And it's much beefier. The end bolts still go through the plastic, but I think the fact that it's a higher amperage, I won't have that issue again. Another issue I had was the original power switch that I had for turning the whole system on and off. It was a 400 amp switch, and sometimes I have to shut that on and off under load, which is not what you're supposed to do, but it happens. And I went through 2 of those, actually. They end up burning out on you. So now, as I may have showed in another video here or another scene, that I have a 600 amp kill switch, which is much more powerful, and I've had no issues since. So if I were to do it again, all of the bus bars would be 600 amp, the kill switches would be 600 amp, and that way I know they'll last, because a system like this can draw a lot of power through it. You know, sometimes when you're charging your batteries on split phase, you can be running 240 amps through the system just charging your batteries. You may have other stuff going on as well. You know, washer and dryer, the stove, the fridge, you name it. All of that really adds up. So overdoing the bus bars and the power switch would do you much better in the end, right? Also, when I built this system, some of the things did not exist yet. Like the 2 3,000 watt inverters. Some people say, why don't you get the newer ones, the 121 or whatever, where you have 2 lines coming in and 2 lines going out. Well, that inverter had not been in distribution when I first was building this system. I started building this system in the beginning of sometime in July of 21, and yeah, that's what it was, July 21, maybe a little sooner, and I finished it off in August of 21. I had originally ordered one of the new inverters. I was trying to get 2, but I couldn't. The one that I was going to get that had no estimated delivery time, so I just canceled that idea and I went with 2 of the Victron 3000s. At the time, because the new ones were coming out, the Victron 3000s were dropped in price. They were about 1,500 Canadian or something like that, and I paid, I don't know, maybe around 900 or 1,000 each for them, because I was getting them on sale because people are getting rid of them, thinking that the newer inverters were going to take over. But now both of them exist, so who knows why. If I were to do it again with the equipment from that time, I would have just went with one inverter, and I would have went with probably a 5 kilowatt Victron inverter. I don't know if I would have been satisfied with the amount of power, but it would have been easier, you know. If I were to do it again now with the power they have now, I'd probably use 2 of those newer inverters that can do 2 lines of 120 on each and run them in parallel. So you'd have split phase and parallel in that system easily. But for the Victron and for everything else, that's really the only problems I had was loose connections at bus bars. So that caused a problem. And that also brought me to checking over my entire system. You know, once I found bad connections there, I went through everything and I checked all of my wire connections from the power panels up by the driver's seat all the way down to where they first come into the basement. The connection over there, the connections on the wall by the inverters, all the connections in the inverters, everything, all the connections on the batteries, all the connections on the solar power, every single thing. I made sure that all the connections were tight. I did find a few connections that weren't as tight as they could have been, but definitely the one on the bus bars were loose, and that definitely caused some problems. So now I'm 100% convinced that every connection in the coach, from the rear batteries to the house batteries to the power panel up there to all connection boxes in between to the transfer switch and the connections even on the generator, all of it's 100%. So I'm really happy about that. And now everything works perfectly. I did have some issues coming back from Florida this year where we had to run the generator most of the way because the system wasn't running right and it was bad connections on bus bars. Hey guys, different day, different location. Canadian summer. Looks like I'm getting some red face there. Beautiful summers in Canada. Anyway, the only other thing I didn't mention in the other video was the other issue I was having was, and I still do, it's because I have 2 inverters. And with 2 inverters and you're using a Servo GX to control your system, it only really, like the Servo GX can only read the master inverter. That's it. It can only read one of them. So when you're setting, maximum 50 amps and all that to take from the pedestal, that only works on one inverter. So you could be taking a maximum of 50 amps from the pole on one inverter, or 30 amps or whatever, and the other one is just running in the background, taking all the power it needs to, and it's not even registering with the Servo GX. So you can still go over and you can kick out your breaker, which still causes issues. I would assume the only way to really resolve this is to have a Servo GX on each inverter and set each one accordingly to how much power you want to take from it, so you don't pop the 50 amp breaker or the 30 when you're running in parallel. But really it's the split phase and the 2 inverters. Even in parallel, it's still a problem. 2 inverters, it really only always reads 1. So that is an issue. I think if I had 2 Servo GXs, it would work much better. But the Servo GX is not cheap, and buying 2 of them, I never really felt like I needed to do that. I just kind of worked around it. But overall, the system is great. We've really had great success with it, and I would highly recommend Victron and Renogy. Those 2 things work really well for us, and in Canada here, it's a good thing. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.